Fan Fest 2025. Who's ready for a new season? All right, well, I get the honor and privilege of interviewing the President of Baseball Operations, Chris Jung. And first, how excited are you to start a new year?
Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. This is one of my favorite events of the year because it kicks off the 2025 season, and we have so many great things to look forward to. We kind of put 2024 behind us and moved to 2025, and I couldn't be more excited about where we are as a team and what we have to look forward to. I can't wait to get out to surprise.
All right. Now, one of the first questions I got, Chris, that I think you're going to be able to answer is somebody was asking me, Ross Fenstermaker, General Manager, and he's been with the organization for a long time. Can you just talk about your tandem, your role as president, his role as general manager? Because people were asking me, Ranger fans, does that mean Chris Jung isn't making baseball decisions anymore? And we think of general manager as making the baseball decision. So I'd love for you to explain to people your role and Ross's role in the organization.
Yeah, it's very similar to what a lot of front offices have throughout baseball. It's a structure. The job is so immense and big today that it's no one person making decisions by ourselves. It's a collective effort amongst the front office, and you really have to have a leadership team to depend on to cover all areas. And so Ross has been with the organization for a long time. He's come up as an intern in professional scouting. He's run our international department. He's run player development. And really, those are his area of expertise, and he's going to continue to have a heavy influence in those areas, but he's going to contribute in all areas of our decision making. And it's no different than when I was hired underneath John Daniels. It was the same structure. This is a team effort, and we collaborate on everything amongst our other executive team in the front office with Josh Boyd, Cole Figueroa, who we hired from the Tampa Bay Rays, Michaeline Curtis, Dayton Moore, Nick Hundley, Michael Young, Ian Kinsler. We have Mike Parnell. We just have a great front office team, and Ross and I are very fortunate to have a great group of people supporting us and helping us make the best decisions possible for this franchise.
Now, I want to talk about the Rangers that are coming back from injury. And you talked about it last night. Hopefully some of the people got to go last night to the awards ceremony. A player that I fell in love with, and I'm sure plenty of Ranger fans fell in love with, was Evan Carter in 2023. How is Evan doing recovering from his injury last year, and where is he at in the process of being ready for spring training?
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you asked because, as we've said, we've done a lot of fun things in terms of our external additions and the players that we brought in. But I said at the outset of the offseason, the biggest improvements that we are going to see to our team is going to be the players that we currently have, and one, keeping them healthy, and two, helping them perform at the best of their abilities. And we couldn't be more excited about where we are today in terms of the health of all of our players, the off seasons that these guys have had, the work that they've put in. They've all had tremendous off seasons. These guys are hungry, they're motivated, and as we sit here today, everybody minus Josh Spores has a clean bill of health and will be full go for spring training, Evan included. So we're really, really excited.
Well, that's awesome. So let me talk about the outfield. You have Leody Taveras, a healthy Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Adolis Garcia. You talked on the podcast, on the Foul Territory podcast, about how you love competition. And you have, we'll get to Jock Peterson here in a little bit, but now you kind of have an established DH in spring training too. So that's kind of 5 guys for 4 spots, and I know that they can rotate. How do you see that competition in spring training and how to use those guys appropriately?
Yeah, I mean, Mike, really, I kind of will expand beyond that. I'll include Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith, and Jock can play the outfield as well. So, you know, the reality is that we're going to experience injuries this year. We're going to experience some guys not performing at times at the best of their ability. And so the key to a successful team is to have depth, options, and competition. And I think it's a really healthy thing. I think competition brings out the best in our guys, and really what it gives is Bruce Bochy a lot of different ways to construct a lineup on any given night, not only to win the game, but to win the next day's game and to rest the players when they need, so that we're not overusing them and we're keeping them fresh and able to get the best of of each guy on a daily basis. So I really believe the 13 position player group that we have right now is as strong as we've had in the last several years, and now we've got to keep these guys healthy, and we've got to help them perform as well as they possibly can.
I like what you're saying, because being ball players at one point in our lives, those guys that are Josh Smiths, Ezekiel Duran, from the pitching staff, Dane Dunnings, and other guys can fill those roles. The guys that might not be your 1 and 2 in your rotation, or the guys that aren't batting second and third in your lineup, they mean so much to getting to that 90 win mark to make the playoffs. And I love the depth on this team right now, because it looks like you have guys, injuries are going to happen, like you said, and guys like Smith last year, Duran the year before, can step into very valuable roles, and without those guys, you can't win 90 games.
Mike, the depth of a team is critically important to the success, and it takes a complete team. It takes a 26-man roster plus another 10 to 15 players beyond that. It's truly a 40-man roster, and our job as a front office is to construct the best 40-man roster, and even after that, with guys that aren't on the 40-man, make sure that we're continuing our player development and that we're having just constantly good options for players that can fill in as needed when we have injuries or when we have underperformance, that we have the next guy up who can come in and help out and help us win. So it is. We have great star players, we have great role players, but it takes everybody, and it's not just about any one player, it's about the collective group and how we come together and the depth that we have. And the reality is that last year we experienced a number of injuries, and we did get thinned out in terms of that depth, and we got in positions where we just didn't have enough starting pitching. There were some moments where even on the position player side we were very, very thin, and we got exposed there. And so it was one of our goals as a front office this offseason to make sure that we reinforce the depth of this roster, and it's a great problem to have.
Now, how do we get other teams' pitchers from throwing up and into Josh Jung and hitting his wrist and ruining a possible back-to-back all-star start to his career?
Look, Josh has had a series of injuries here that have been just more bad luck than anything. It hasn't been wear and tear type injuries, just sort of accidents that you can't really control. And my hope is that we're now going to experience a long run of sustained health for Josh, and that we're going to be able to see him put together a complete season and go out and perform at the level that we've all seen for periods of time. But he's so important to our team. He's such a winning personality, a winning player, brings a competitive spirit and intensity every day, and makes the guys around him better. And I'm really excited about this season for him.
Now, I was going to start with this, but I'm going to start with it right here. I cried this morning, guys, and I don't know how many times Ranger fans still cry over this, but I woke up, I got my cup of coffee, and I got on YouTube, and I watched the 2023 playoff highlights of the Texas Rangers, and just seeing the defensive moments, the moments of big-time pitches, the moments of big-time hits and big-time home runs. I would have never thought this week, I've done it twice, and I've cried both times, I would have never thought that it's still that emotional to me. And one of the things I was talking to you about, CY, is the thing that gets me is, yes, I love watching the home runs or the defensive plays, but I love watching the fans' reactions in the background, or those Instagram clips of Ranger fans celebrating that moment.
I can't disagree with you. I didn't cry this morning over it, Mike, but I do enjoy those videos and seeing the pictures of our fan celebration. And probably, I don't do a ton of reflecting or looking back. I'm always looking forward, trying to think about what do we need to do next, and how are we gonna compete next year? How are we gonna win the next championship? And but when I do look back on the 2023 season, some of the most touching moments for me are exactly what you described. It's the reaction of our fans. And you and I both grew up here. We both grew up diehard Ranger fans. We both had the opportunity to play for this franchise, and we know how much this team, this franchise, means to our community, to our fan base. And so I said this when I came here and took the job: there would be nothing more fulfilling for me professionally than seeing this community celebrate a World Series championship. And now I stand by. There will be nothing more fulfilling for me than seeing this community celebrate its next World Series championship.
That's a big clap for your 2025 West Division champs, your 2025 American League champs, and your 2025 World Series champion Texas Rangers this year. Last night at FanFest, you talked about, and it was tough for you because you're excited about a lot of things for this season, but the last thing you talked about for Ranger fans, what you're most excited about, is Jacob deGrom getting to start hopefully every fifth day, give you 20 to 30 starts this year. Can you talk about where Jacob deGrom is and how excited you are to see him this year?
Yeah, the question I was asked last night at our awards banquet was, what are you most excited about for the 2025 season? And really, I hadn't thought of it up until the question was asked, and it took a moment to really kind of come to me. And I kind of went through in my head position by position, and there's not one position I'm not excited about. I love this roster. I love these guys, and I'm excited to watch all of them go out and perform as a group. But I think about the last couple years, and really the one player that we haven't seen at the level that we are going to see this year, and that's Jacob deGrom. And Jacob is healthy. He's having a great offseason. He's throwing. He's building up, preparing for spring training. And our expectation is for Jacob to have a season in which he's going to stay healthy. He's going to be healthy start to finish, and we're going to see the best of him. And there's nothing like watching Jacob deGrom pitch up close. I mean, it's special. I was a significantly less talented pitcher than Jacob. I know how hard this is, and I know how easy Jacob makes it look. And when you come to the ballpark knowing that Jacob deGrom is starting for you that day, it just brings a different energy and presence to the environment. And for our fans to get to experience that this year at the level that we are expecting, I'm so excited to watch that.
So am I. It is really special. I remember in 23, it ended up not being the game that I thought, but when Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, two future Hall of Famers, got to match up against each other. Unfortunately, Max, I believe, got hurt in that game.
That was a slugfest, right?
Yeah, it ended up not being what you might think it's going to be, but it's rare. I remember as a kid going to Arlington Stadium, and when my dad got tickets, and one of my favorite pitchers was Frank Viola, and Roger Clemens for Boston at the time, or maybe Dave Stewart for Oakland. I mean, those were things that I couldn't wait as a kid when I was, either summertime or at school in April and May, that I would get to see one of the best pitchers in the game pitch, and we have one of those guys here. And really, I'm going to say two of those guys because I love watching Nathan Eovaldi pitch too.
Well, you're right, and one of my best Ranger memories as a child was sitting in the bleachers at Old Arlington Stadium. I think it was 150 degrees out there, but it was watching Nolan Ryan pitch against Roger Clemens, and I'll never forget Rafael Palmeiro hit a home run late in the game to give the Rangers a 2-1 win. But that was a true pitcher's duel, and I'll never forget that. I think I was probably 8 years old and watching that game, and my hope is that there's a group of 8-year-old kids that get to come out to Globe Life Field to watch Jacob deGrom match up against the best in the world here, and they'll remember that, and it'll carve out a special place in their memory in terms of their Ranger experience. So, and to your point, Mike, it's not just Jacob. It's Nathan Eovaldi, it's Tyler Mahle, we have John Gray, Cody Bradford, and then two of our exciting young pitchers in Kamar Rocker and Jack Leiter, who are going to play important roles for our team this year. So the talent of this starting pitching staff is there, and I'm really excited to watch these guys come together and go out and perform and build off each other and create that competitive spirit that good staffs have.
Yeah, speaking of the Vandy boys, Leiter and Rocker, you have to watch them a little bit differently in spring training than you would the veteran guys you named that are going to be in the rotation. What's your thought when you're watching those guys in February and March, giving you an idea if they're ready to start opening day, or if maybe they need just a little bit more time to develop, to hone their skills for 2025?
Yeah, Mike, I mean, my thought process right now is that both those guys are ready to contribute and help us. We saw it in September. They both pitched very well. They both finished the season strong, and we think from a talent standpoint, they are both ready to contribute in 2025 at the major league level. There are a lot of variables that we don't have completely spelled out that will, over the course of spring training will kind of play out, and we'll see where we are from a health standpoint. But our expectation is that Jack and Kamar are two major league pitchers who are going to play very important roles on our 2025 team. What does that mean in terms of opening day, or at what point, where they start? I can't commit to that at this point. However, I do know they are ready to be contributors at the big league level.
So I've never been in a front office. I know the pressure and the stress on the mound in a big situation. And you want the ball, and sometimes I'd be backing up bases after wanting the ball. What is more stressful? Coming into a game, second and third, 1 out, game on the line, late in the game, or trying to trade for or negotiate a contract with all of these guys that you've added to the team?
Well, if I said anything regarding my job right now as being more stressful than what these guys go through and what they do, I'd be doing them a great disservice. The stresses and the challenges of being a successful major league player far surpass the stresses I experience in this role. I think the hardest part for me in this role, less in terms of negotiating contracts or making trades, is more just watching the games and wanting so badly to win every game, and to wanting our players to play as best as they possibly can, knowing how talented they are. And having no control in that. That's the hard part. At least when I was a player, I felt like if I came into a situation or had a big moment in the game, I at least had the ball in my hand and had some level of control. I'm a fan. I'm no different than any of you all watching a game. I'm rooting these guys on. I'm cheering, and I'm pulling my hair out when things don't go our way. So that's the hardest part of my role now, but it pales in comparison to the challenges and the stresses of what our players do, and the expectations that they have on them. So, my job, our job as a front office, our job as an organization is to support all of our players as best we can. It's to help them realize their dreams, and in turn help them try to compete for championships so that our fans can experience that again.
Awesome. So speaking of the guys you added 2 guys into your lineup, and Jake Berger and Jock Peterson. Now, those guys are known for eating fastballs for lunch. And I know last year, as the season progressed, you'd kind of hear around the league, well, the Rangers can struggle with that 95 plus. And it looks like you've answered that question, go, all right, bring in the 95 plus, and not only with other guys that are on your team like Seager and Langford and other guys, but you added some guys that love hard fastballs.
Yeah, and that was a component for us adding Jake and Jock. However, we have a team full of players that are capable of handling 95-mile-an-hour fastballs. I have no doubt about that. Hitting is contagious, and last year our lineup got thinned out by injury. We didn't have the same continuity. We had some guys that were underperformed a little bit, and just we lost our way a little bit. But I have complete confidence in every player's ability to be able to hit velocity, to hit spin, to really handle anything that is going to be thrown at us. And I think what we're going to find with the depth of the roster and the talent of these guys, with Jake and Jock included, is that my hope is that it feels more like 2023, where the lineup is just this machine that keeps going, and we've got a lot of different ways to win games. We can hit for power, we can hit for average, we can get on base where it counts, we can win early, we can win late, we can win with base running. It's a versatile team, and that's what I'm excited about. I think we have a lot of different options. I think Boch feels really good about where some of the decisions he's going to have to make and how he's going to put together lineups. And but these guys are all capable. The velocity thing is a little bit overplayed. I'll blame Evan Grant for that, but no. Last year it certainly held true, and we didn't handle velocity as well as we could. That said, these guys are all capable of it, and hitting is contagious, and I think this year we'll see that.
I know you just talked about Boch in the lineup. how many different lineups have you made on a piece of paper in your head? Because there's so many different ways I look at this lineup, whether at times, maybe in a certain situation, Jock Peterson and Corey Seager are batting back-to-back. Maybe Jake Berger's batting in kind of that heart of the lineup. There could be other times where studs might be batting seventh in your lineup, and it doesn't mean they're a typical 7-hole hitter. It just means the lineup depth, when healthy, you could be facing an all-star batting seventh.
Yeah, and Mike, that's the beauty of a deep roster, and it's a great thing for us as an organization to be able to have so many different options. And I think that's, as a front office, that's one of the things we really consider is, all right, do we have solutions for a left-handed pitcher? Do we have solutions for a right-handed pitcher? And then do we have solutions to be able to keep these guys healthy and rotate them through and be able to give them adequate off days so that we're not wearing them out, we're not running them into the ground? I mean, the Major League season's a grind. It's one of the toughest things about being a major leaguer is just how long the season is. And every player is going to go through some slumps over the course of the season. So do we have ways of resting those guys and maybe shortening the slumps because we're able to help their bodies recover and help them get back to their best form quicker? So, and a big part of that, a big component of that is the rest that we give them and the way that we schedule some off days here and there. And we need to be able to win games when Corey Seager's not in there, when Adolis Garcia gets a day off, when Jonah Heim's off, when Jake Berger's off, Josh Jung. We need to be able to win games on days where those guys are having off days. And so building a true 13 position player group that any one player can step in and we're not having a significant drop off is really, really important.
So you mentioned kind of the rest and also a little bit of the mental part of the game. And I tell people, if you went down to Frisco and hopefully, at some point when the Rangers are on the road or an off day, you go check out the Frisco Rough Riders. It's great baseball, and there's going to be future Texas Rangers there. And the part about Major League Baseball that can be so difficult is it's the top 1% in the world competing against each other. And the guys that separate themselves, not only talent, but it's the mental part. Who do you give a lot of credit to, or who could you give credit to in the Rangers organization for really helping out with the mental development of the Texas Rangers?
Well, it's everybody, because I think it's part of our core scouting philosophy, and I think that so much of the mental side is also the selection process and us evaluating players before they become members of the Texas Rangers, that we're selecting players who that's one of the boxes that we really want to check off, that we want to make sure that these are mentally tough players. And so it starts with the amateur scouting side, the international amateur side, where we're really doing a lot of digging on the person and understanding the makeup of the player as much as we are the physical talent of the player. And so it starts there and it continues into our player development system. And I always say our best mental skills coaches are our coaches, is that we want them to understand not only the technical aspects of coaching, but the mental side too, because that's half the battle of being a good major league player is just the mental side and showing up. I always say the hardest thing about being a major league player is on any given night being the worst player on the field and then showing up the next day with the confidence that you're going to be the best. And it really it takes time for young players to kind of understand that, because every player struggles at the big league level. Every player struggles in the minor leagues for the most part. And it's how you overcome those struggles and what you learn from those struggles and how you learn to apply the lessons from those struggles that determine your success as a player. And it's a really, really hard thing when you're on the biggest stage in the world, playing against the best competition in the world, to go through those struggles and not perform at the level that you think you're capable. So how do you still continue to have the confidence to show up the next day that I'm going to be good tonight? And that's the hardest challenge of being a major leaguer. But it's a collective effort amongst. We have a mental skills department which does a great job, but it's everybody from identifying the right characteristics in players that we think are going to be mentally tough and strong and be able to handle the adversity they're going to face, to continuing to train them through their development cycle in our organization, and our coaches play a huge role in that.
Great answer. And we look at Wyatt Langford, a young guy who, unbelievable spring training last year, comes up to the major leagues, a lot of expectations. And in June, he becomes Rookie of the Month. In July and August, struggles a little bit. And then in September, he's the best player in all of baseball. Nobody was better than Wyatt Langford last year in September in Major League Baseball. What difference did you see in Wyatt Langford in September, maybe versus July and August?
Well, we just saw the continued evolution and growth of a young player. Wyatt flew through the minor leagues. He really, just his ascent to the big leagues was so rapid and so impressive. But to think that he was going to get to the big leagues and perform at the same level he had in college baseball or the minor leagues was just an unfair expectation. That said, we knew that he would have to go through, his development would continue at the big leagues. He would go through some struggles at the big league level, and then eventually he would be better for it. And that's exactly what we saw. And for the Major League season for a rookie is a long, long season. It truly starts in mid-February and goes through the end of September. It's the longest season of their lives. And oftentimes you see rookies start to struggle or taper off at the end of the year. By September, they're fatigued and you don't see them at their best. What we saw was a player who got to September and instead of limping to the finish line, he ran right through it and kept going. And I think it speaks to, one, the way Wyatt takes care of himself, two, the mental side for Wyatt, that this is a guy who just is not fazed by anything. And then three, the adjustments he made and the growth he made over the course of his Major League season and his first Major League season. And it was really, really fun to watch. And what I'm so excited for is what we have to look forward to in the future with Wyatt, because I think he's just scratching the surface of what we're going to see.
Well, I'm opening up baseball cards a little bit later with Josh Jung, and I've been looking at a lot of eBay Wyatt Langford cards because I think he's going to have a pretty great year this year. Now, my last thing for you, we ran out of time in a hurry. What are your expectations for 2025? I know, very general question. Take it where you'd love. Your expectations for this season.
Yeah, it's very simple. Year in, year out, our goal as a front office is to put together a winning team that can compete for a division title, that can make the playoffs, and then in turn have a chance to win the World Series. And that's our expectation for this roster. It's what our fans deserve. You guys got to experience that in 2023. We were hopeful that we would bounce back in 2024 and have another great year. It didn't go our way, but we are motivated to have a great 2025, and we can't wait to see you guys out here at the ballpark. So thank you guys so much, and thanks for your support.
Thank you, Ranger fans, so much for coming out to FanFest. Have a great afternoon. I'll be up with Josh Jung at 2 o'clock. We're going to be opening cards. So kids, if you're here, we're going to have some kids help us open up some cards and just have a blast out here. Enjoy the Texas Rangers Fan Fest and enjoy the 2025 season. And Chris, thank you so much for coming up here and answering all the questions.